G'day guys, Moe here. We're trying something new today. We're going to keep it short and simple as voted by you guys. What are the skills to become an IGL? What are the skills required to be successful at that role? It's a very demanding role. It's notoriously difficult. It does affect your stats. A lot of IGLs have fallen off the face of the planet. A lot have been successful. What are some of the things that I believe things that are very crucial to that role, and the mentality required, as well as the infrastructure and the teammates around you. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoy, and let's get into it. Okay, so I'm just in a game at the moment, and basically there's a few things that I wanted to go over before I actually get into the technical details. So firstly, you need to study the game mentality, right? What does this mean? Well, you should always be wanting to learn more about the game and its theory, why things occur, why they do at certain times during the game. The game plans going into each official, the game plans going into each tournament, the playbooks that the teams bring out, and that should be what interests you, right? Not so much, jumping into a face-it pug and just trying to get, the highest score possible and, putting on a show and, putting some frag highlights on YouTube. It doesn't work like that. There's a lot more that you need to focus on. Secondly, understanding why and how. So watching the same rounds over and over again in a demo that you're reviewing, right? For me, my recommendation, something that I learned, from Blitz, who's another IGL in the scene, is basically, it made a lot of sense, is to, watch the same team. Say you're watching Liquid on Inferno, right, from IEM Sydney. You don't want to jump across to Blast Pro Series and then Katowice and watch Inferno from all three events, because you're not going to see the full depth of their playbook, right? So in that sense, understanding why and how, watching the same rounds over and over again from the same event, you get an indication into their playbook and why they're doing the things they do, what have they changed since the last event, and you'll start to see things in a lot of detail, right? And thirdly, constantly changing meta. So the fact that the game changes all the time, I'm actually standing in a section that changes from tournament to tournament, the way teams are contesting this, and that requires many hours of demo review. It's going to be very boring, unfortunately, but that's the job of an IGL. You need to have an accepted you need to accept that that's the case with IGLing, and it's going to take a lot of your time and basically consume a lot of your life in terms of CS. So that's the mentality that's required. So what teammates do you need around you? That's FPL +3, boys. We've got to speed this up. But look, micromanagement can hurt, right? And in saying that, the coach, the IGL, and the players should all be on the same wavelength. And that includes accepting having a deep playbook is important, having your anti-force, your anti-ecos, your eco strats, your force by strats, your gun rounds, your variations, your pistol rounds, and having an understanding that all this stuff is important to becoming a great team, and especially having a wide map pool, right? And when I say micromanagement is bad, that means that if you spend many hours going over the defaults, explaining how things are meant to work, when you say those things in the game, you need to find a way as an IGL to make sure that your teammates understand that. That means less micromanagement from your perspective. It means you can focus on your crosshair more. It means you can make better reads without having to look at the radar and say, hey, can you come back over here? Can you go over here? What utility do you have? Can you throw this? You've all got it kind of pre-planned. Everyone gets the idea. Things may change, obviously, throughout the course of the round, but everyone has a general idea on what to do, and that'll help you a lot. So it's a skill in itself to be able to bring your teammates on that wavelength and basically become a unit as a team. So you need to be able to really embrace that and force that upon your team. So thirdly, on another topic, is you need to understand the reasons as to why things happen, right? So, if you're doing, you understand why, if you're watching a demo, why a team at 3-0 after winning the pistol round may go do a fast-paced jungle exec where they send, maybe 3 through jungle fast with set smokes, flashes over the roof, molotovs onto the balcony in the pit, or a wall of smokes, and just basically any sort of execute. It could be over at the B side as well. Why do they do that, right? Well, the reason is to set the pace of the game. You're able to fake that if you win that round successfully. The other team will constantly be worrying about that strategy. I'm just like doing an in-air exec on train in the first gun round. So you need to understand as an IGL, why do you call things at certain times on the first gun round when their money's low? Are you going to pull out a strat when their money's really good, just to get an 8-1 scoreline? I don't think so, right? You pull out the big boys strats when you can turn the game in your favor, right? With the old money system, we call them break rounds. Concept still applies, not so much, but you need to understand when to pull out the big boy strats, when to pull out the rabbit out of the hat, the surprise rather, and when to call that based on the enemy's economy, based on the score, based on the momentum, all the sort of good stuff that you need to be looking at. That's all running through your head during a game. And that can be easily covered with creating game plans before the game and understanding when you may call certain things. But generally, you need to have a very sound understanding. Secondly, there's micro details that kind of come into advanced play. But as a T, or as a CT rather, more so applies to the CT side. You need to control the CT setups in certain ways. For example, if you're a CT team and you've just given the Ts banana basically for free, so all they had to do was Molotov the car, get a flash going, molly that, and you didn't really contest them too much. And then they exec the site, and maybe they won, maybe they didn't. It's not the point, right? The next round, maybe something that you want to do is actually take banana off them and bring 3 players over, right? So you're giving them a false sense of hope that they have banana for free, let's use it again, and then bang, you're coming out swinging, right? So I'm not saying you give them it for free on purpose, but it just may be the setup, maybe the utility that you have. You take something away from the other team that you've just given them, and it can really be a mind game there, and it's something that an IGL needs to understand and can really give you an edge over other teams, especially at the lower divisions. And the third thing there is understanding what the other team is doing, right? You need to recognize what sort of default the other team is running. And in that case, you may be able to push a certain area, you may be able to take certain map control. If you know that the Ts are sending 3 banana, you probably want to not play so far back on A so that you get a lot of time to bring the B players over to rotate. Maybe you'll pre-Molotov the apps so that when the Ts recognize that there's 3 banana, they don't just rush you. Maybe you'll pre-smoke middle. Micro details like that. You need to understand as a CT and as a T what setup the other team is doing, and you're basically building a minimap in your head every single round, right? And the last sort of topic that I wanted to touch on is you need an ability to read the map, right? So you need to be building a minimap in your head based on the utility that the other team is thrown, based on where their team is, being able to make a call using this information in a fast manner. And in that case, you need to bring your teammates on the same page so they understand what you're going to call and when. And you need to understand like who have you killed, where do they play, abuse this, right? So obviously, Order are a great team and they have a deep playbook, right? But on their CT nuke, you know that Hatch is their amp player. You know that Inns and Ali are interchangeable at outside and secret. You know that Zeph is the hard topside anchor. And Emag is the second top player / annex first rotator together, right? When you kill certain players, you need to understand how to use this information to take certain areas of the map, right? And if you don't act fast enough, they'll punish you. So you need to be able to have gone through this beforehand, make sure your teammates understand, and that way you can capitalize on it very easily, right? In terms of building a minimap in your head, what I'm trying to get at is, if you're doing a default on T-side Inferno, right? And the common meta at the moment is basically to smoke out the CT's second molly, and then either kind of chill behind it or get flashed through or whatever, right? But when you build a minimap in your head with utility as well as positioning, right? So if the CTs have used all the utility, right? They've tried to double molly you, and obviously your smoke puts it out. They've double mollowed, the logs. They've tried to smoke this area or smoke deep. They've used all the utility, but you still have banana, right? So what should you do? Well, I don't think you should just walk in, right? Because the CTs have no utility anyway. What are they going to be doing? You just bringing the fight down to their level, right? What you should be doing is doing a full execute, right? Because they don't have the utility to stop you in a way. If they don't use any of their utility at banana, should you do a full execute? Probably not, because they still have all the utility to stop you. They'll drop the smoke, they'll molly behind it, they'll get the flashes going, and you're kind of effed, right? So in that case, maybe what should you do? Well, maybe you could just pop flash through their smoke with a good flash, send 3 players through the smoke, and that way you catch them off guard, and maybe you can win around that way, right? Or if they're holding all utility and they're not using it, maybe you can send your AWPer to walk in, right? Besides the point, there's a lot of detail that I can get into, and I can probably do it at a further stage. And this is endless. It goes across the whole map pool. There's, dozens upon dozens of different reactions and protocol and and understanding what to do at the right time based on what the enemy is doing. It's a constant mind game, it's a constant chess game. But what I'm trying to get you guys to understand is the fact that you need to look at what utility the other team has used, and have a plan for that, right? Have it pre-planned, go through it with your team, and make sure you guys understand, right? So this is all qualities of an IGL, and you know, it's not easy by any means. It's very detailed, and this is only 10% of what being an IGL entails. I hope it gives you guys a little bit of an open mind to understand, you know, the thought process behind being an IGL at a high level. And if you start to do this at a lower level, like, you guys will just excel. Your team that you're in will just skyrocket as long as you have everyone on the same page. Any questions, guys, let me know. Happy to answer. Any aspiring IGLs. By no means am I perfect. I still make a lot of the wrong calls, you know, at the wrong times, I guess. And, you know, I do kind of, you know, fall to pressure in the late games. But this is normal. It's a learning experience, and it's all part of the process. So any questions, guys, make sure you let me know. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. Take care.